Doing another test here over here on the Reviewing Network Live channel and giving you kind of an idea of some of the things we're going to be covering every week on the Reviewing Network Live podcast. We're going to cover the weekend box office, and I want to just quickly dive through the top 5 box office, well, technically top 6, because the number 6 film is something that we should talk about too. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with number 5 here, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, still hanging in there, 6th week at the box office, over $8 million this weekend, bringing in a total gross of $357.6 million for a film that the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, made is half that. I mean, this is still really good business, and the film is still one of the best. It's still the best movie of the year, and people are still going out to see it, as they are going out to see the number 4 film, which is Elemental, which had another small drop this week, $10 million this weekend, bringing its total up to $109.6 million in its 4th week. I mean, I'm so happy that people are finding this movie, because as I said on the other channel, this is a really good movie that was really... It got overshadowed by The Flash, which this movie has surpassed The Flash's total gross right now, which The Flash right now is at $105 million after 4 weeks. But Elemental's already at $109 million, and over $250 million worldwide, too. So, needless to say, that people are slowly but surely coming around to this movie, and it still has a couple more weeks before it has some real family competition coming up with Ninja Turtles at the end of the month, and maybe The Haunted Mansion, too, although I'm not too sure about that one. So, moving on to one of the new releases in the top 5, number 3, one of the big surprises of the summer so far, and that is Jim Caviezel's The Sound of Freedom. If you don't know what this movie is, Jim Caviezel, of course, was Jesus in Passion of the Christ. He plays a fictionalized version of Tim Ballard, who is a former government agent who embarks on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers in Colombia. And this film got a huge push from... Angel Studios, this new company this film was actually in development and was actually finished by 20th Century Fox before they got purchased by Disney, and Disney essentially shelved the film, and now it's currently grossing. I mean, it's making more money than anyone could have ever expected. A 6-day total of over $40 million is pretty impressive for this movie, all things considered. So, I've heard a lot of good things. It actually has some pretty good reviews to it, so I don't know for certain if I'm ever going to see it, honestly, because I don't really have a real interest in it, but, I mean, more power to them. I mean, this film really did surprise everybody. This became one of the unexpected hits of the summer, and it's more of a success than the number 2 movie, which is sadly Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I've done some videos over on the other channel talking about how this movie has kind of failed financially, because it's only at $122.1 million after 2 weeks. It brought in $27.4 million this weekend, and it's a film that costs between $250 and $300 million. So this thing's going to need to make at least double that to have any kind of profit, and I think that's going to be a real tough task to do. So it's a shame that this movie isn't doing better. It was kind of I think it's kind of expected, because some of the reasons I bring up on that other video I did over on the other channel. The budget was another thing. I think Disney had too much ambition for this. They didn't really promote it as much as they should have. And they got to be careful, because they're a couple of more flops away from having to completely change their overall strategy on how they make these films. And this event film thing could be fine for you if you're making the money, but when you're losing out to a 5th film in the series, like the number 1 movie, Insidious the Red Door, then there's something that you need to take into consideration there, that you might need to change some things up around here. But like I said, Insidious the Red Door is the number 1 movie this weekend. $33 million, and that's impressive numbers for a series like this that has been... this series has not... Let me put it this way. This film series has not been... It hasn't been a film series that has gone off the deep end like has overstayed its welcome, like the Friday the 13th movies or A Nightmare on Elm Street. But there has been times when the series looked like it has been dead, has not been the success that it should have been. But regardless, it still has made good money over the last couple of years. Like the first movie and the 3rd film made around $50 million in total, but Chapter 2 made $83 million, and then The Last Key actually made $67 million in American money alone. And now you have this movie, Insidious the Red Door, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the best opening for the series. And I'd have to double check this again just to make sure. Actually, no, Insidious Chapter 2 has the highest opening in the series with $41 million. But regardless, for a film like this that's $16 million and they made double that on its opening weekend, you know what? More power to them. I give them a lot of credit for actually continuing the series. I'm not gonna lie, the trailers for this actually looked pretty scary. I mean, that scene where he's inside the what do you call it, the cat scanner thing, and the monster comes up out of nowhere. I mean, that's a really good scare that got me the first time when I saw the trailer for it on TV during the NBA Finals. So, and good for Patrick Wilson, man. He's been with this series for a long time. He has this in the Conjuring franchise, and this is his first chance to get a directing effort into it. More power to him. He did a pretty good job of handling this that made people really want to come out and see this again. So I don't think this is going to have long-lasting powers because on CinemaScore it's got a C+ rating on there, and that usually means that this thing will kind of... Usually these type of horror movies will usually be very front-loaded, but regardless, I mean, $33 million, just like that, is on a $16 million budget for a first-time director. That's a pretty good opening for him as a first-time director, so a lot of credit to him, and a lot of credit for Sony for promoting this to get people to still come out and see this film, so kudos to them. One last thing before we head off here. The number 6 film we should talk about is Joyride, which is Lionsgate's second critically acclaimed comedy this summer to not do well at the box office. I mean, the first one, of course, being The Blackening, but then again, you're opening up against Elemental and The Flash on June 16th, and you bring in only $17 million total, but despite this, the budget of that was $5 million overall, but you kind of expect more from that particular film with all the critical buzz that was going for it at that time. Joyride was pretty much the same thing. Joyride did not about the same amount of money, $5.8 million, with a budget for this that I can't really find right now. I don't think it has the budget on there, but $5.8 million for this is not the best start for this movie, despite the fact that it has a 91% of Rotten Tomatoes. The CinemaScore overall has a B-, and when I really look back on this movie, I don't think I ever saw any real promotions for this movie on TV. Like if you watched, like on Fox's Animation Domination, they didn't have any commercials for this. There were some trailers for it in theaters, but there was nothing on FXX. You would think they would have it on like FX and FXX, like TV spots for this. I know they had them for The Blackening, but for this movie, there really didn't seem like a whole lot of promotion for this film, so I don't know if this was a thing on Lionsgate's part where they didn't really promote the film enough, but regardless, I think this maybe, this maybe might have a chance to be one of those cult classics coming out when people discover this on digital and on home media. I think this will actually have a following on there, and will have a cult following after that, but you know what? The more I think about it, most of these Lionsgate comedies don't usually get the proper respect in theaters. Like I know that, a couple years ago we had American Ultra with Kristen Stewart and Jesse Eisenberg, which was actually a pretty good movie. Didn't do well at the box office, but it's because of home media release and the fact that it found an audience on TV and all that, it has garnered somewhat of a cult following. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar is another example that I can think of that has that sort of a cult following to it. It didn't do well at the box office, but on that one you can blame the COVID pandemic for that. And but the film has had a cult following. It's been playing on FX the last couple of months, and I still really enjoy that movie. I remember seeing that movie a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed that film. And Lionsgate has had a couple of really good comedies that have not done well box office wise, but they have made some really good films. So I haven't seen this one yet, Joyride. I do want to check this one out, as well as The Blackening, and hopefully when those come to physical media, I'll definitely get a chance to check those out and talk about those at some point here. But other than that, though, the rest of the top 10 overall has nothing too crazy inside of it. No Hard Feelings is still holding up pretty well with $40 million after 3 weeks. Transformers Rise of the Beast is still doing very well after 5 weeks, $146 million. The Little Mermaid's looking like it's going to close in on $300 million after 7 weeks. It's at $289 right now with still a couple weeks to go. And then Ruby Gillum, Teenage Kraken is looking like it's going to be a big bomb right now. I think DreamWorks really missed the mark on that one, marketing that film. They spoiled too much in the trailer for it. They didn't really have a whole lot of commercials out for it like they had with some of their other big properties. Like I know they had a big promotional push when Puss in Boots came out, as well as most of the Super Mario Brothers movie. But this one, it just felt like they kind of dumped this one out. And after 2 weeks, it's only made $11 million. And that's not good numbers for DreamWorks Animation, who has usually done pretty well, especially after the pandemic. But I don't know what went wrong on this front here. So that's basically the top 10, and that's giving you kind of an idea of what you can expect to see on a weekly basis on the Reviewing Network Live podcast. We'll talk about the box office. We'll mostly talk about the top 5, and occasionally we'll see what's happening in the other movies in the top 10. So thank you guys for listening in on this. I wanted to give you guys a little preview of what's to come here, but if you like what you see, hit the like and subscribe button, subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to seeing you with our full preview on August 6th and the premiere episode on September the 3rd. So I'll see you guys then.